focuses on analyzing the efforts that corporations are making all over the world in order to change radically the way to select the personnel. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all the organizers for the opportunity to give this presentation about the paper I'm working on from a very long time, and who focuses on analyzing the efforts that corporations are making all over the world in order to change radically the way to select the personnel. And this is very important because we do have to understand, in order to understand the legal rules that are binding this new phenomenon, to understand what they want to accomplish, what goals they want to achieve with this particular effort. And the achievement is essentially related to one specific consideration, that traditionally the recruitment process is based on the sensation, the impressions that HR have on people. They interview someone, they think that this person could be fit for the role they're looking for, and that's all they need in order to select the person. And this is very important, and started to change in the very first part of the 21st century. And it changed because of something coming from the sports environment. It changed from Moneyball, and Moneyball was something happened in the United States in the baseball sport. And because the Oakland Athletics, that was a team, a baseball team, enacted a specific new way to select baseball players. And because they selected people differently, sorry, I'm just trying to keep time, so I check from time to time. They were selecting football players not basing on observation, that was what they used to be before. So they go to a baseball play, they watch 2 or 3 games, and after that they think, this guy is good, we're gonna take them. After Moneyball, they started to rely on more objective data. And the objective data were basically the time and the computable results that the baseball player were achieving. And some scholars in the United States started to think, why can't we do the same thing? We could do the same thing in the HR recruitment process. And we would like to know if there are data that on which we can base the recruitment process, also with the skills that we require that are different from baseball player, of course. And what kind of skills do we have to observe, and what kind of data do we have to collect in order to understand that? Who's the right person for a role in a specific field? And to answer this question, a lot of the economic scholars started to imagine what kind of criteria could be selected in order to understand that. Basically, they started to think that we have to understand what hard skills can be translated in number, and how, and this is much more difficult, soft skills can be translated in numbers. More or less, in order to achieve countable data about these two different set of research, they started to both rely on some data that could be collected during the interview process, and some other data that are already collected from employers during the performing of the working activity. And both of those ways to collect can have different problems, both from a privacy point of view and from other kind of point of view. But the aim of this presentation is not to focus on the problems, but is to understand what the phenomenon aims at. What are the concerns that led to do this kind of research? And between corporations, this is very, it was very much relied on for example, in the Harvard Law Review and the Harvard Business Review. They basically are concerned on key personnel and on retaining talents. These are the two keywords. So how we find the best people for this role and how we retain them once we have found them. And to do that, it's funny the way that they selected, because, for example, some of it passed through the so-called gamification process. So they transformed the process of interviewing in a sort of game. And they use, for example, softwares and games, interactive games, in order to achieve the goal. So they tried to understand how would you face a certain problem that was simulated through the software, or how could you face several problems one after another. From all these, the problems essentially of privacy are that you would probably like better not if your employer knows that, for example, you are absent a lot, and this is something that is collected during the working activity, or if you have some problems, or if you request some specific accommodation or whatever, and you wouldn't like that to be part of your selection process, even if it's actually reliable and objective data, and it's comparable because it's numeric. But in that specific field, for example, there is a health issue, and so this is part of a problem. But as I told before, I think that we also, and I'm concluding, we have to not only think to the discriminatory effect that this process can have, but we also have to think about what can be better if we can construct a reliable process of selection through this new instrument like AI and data collection. And my answer is that one of the things that we always say is that this could be discriminatory and the effect could be negative for the worker. But if we think for a moment on how traditionally we select people in the interview process, then we realize that even a human person, when selects someone, has prejudice and it's biased, and that the bias that we recognize in the algorithms now were transferred probably from the people that generally have the same problem. So maybe in this, from this point of view, it is that's a really great experience, because for the very first time we can, if this is possible technically, and this is part of the thing that we have to work on, but if this is possible technically, we will be able, at the end of the day, if we do it right, to review exactly the internal process of decision that this kind of instruments and items can rely on. And I think that this is a great opportunity, and not only a risk, because we actually could not do it with an actual person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Riccardo Fratini.